cook. That's what I do, and certainly for many people, for most people who know me, whether it's on television, through book and so forth, I'm defined by my culinary identity. That's who I am, and that type, my culinary culture, certainly. And that culture is expressed in ritual, like I go mushrooming in the wood, or fishing for frog, or playing lawn bowling, which is pétanque or boule in France. And those rituals in terms of expressed very often in traditional recipe, like certain type of dishes, which goes with those occupations and all that. So it's a kind of down the line culinary culture for me. And certainly that's what I try to instill in my daughter, because cooking is extremely important for us. It defines, as I say, ourselves. And I could quote Levi-Strauss there, who say that the process of cooking is the process by which nature is transformed into culture. And I think for me it's a very profound statement, because that's what we are. And so many of the deals, so many of what we do happen around the table. When I'm at home with my wife, we sit down together. I've been married 41 years, and it's a ritual that we've done for 41 years, where we sit down and share a bottle of wine and eat at night. But then I may do a simple roast chicken, a salad, and so forth. Now that's what you may call country cooking, And then if she called me and I'm at the market and she said, "Oh, I just saw such and such, and I told them to come over for lunch or dinner." So I may add a garnish to that, or two garnish to my menu. I may put another bottle of wine on the table, and maybe a napkin, and the chicken I may deglaze with a little bit of white wine and some mushroom, and that becomes bourgeois cooking. And by the time I deglaze it with cognac, and I add truffle with it, and we put flour on the table, and we put champagne, it's still the same chicken, but that's haute cuisine, So very often the definition of cuisine is marginal to the cooking itself, it involves other things. I think that in my case we'll probably remember the catastrophe that you have, more than the great success that you have. And otherwise, one goes into the other. There is never a dish which is absolutely perfect, There it can, but sometimes you get close enough that you're very satisfied with yourself. But again, it has to do with your own palate. Without any question, if you decide on the 10 best restaurants in New York, or the 10 best restaurants in France, and if I go to those 10 restaurants, maybe five, six of them I'm going to think are absolutely extraordinary. 2 or 3 of them I'm going to think they are quite good. And a couple of them, I'm going to say, I don't understand why those people are 3-star. And what I'm saying there is that you cannot escape yourself. So the 4 or 5 that I absolutely adore just happen to coincide exactly with my sense of taste, with my sense of aesthetic. So it's purely a narcissistic reflection, if you want, on my own taste, because that coincides with what I like. And the other one, I'm not as familiar with it. So as I said, to a certain extent, you can work with many different people, but you cannot escape yourself. At some point you are who you are, and that will be expressed in the food. That's what I try to tell the student at BU, for example. I have a class of 10, 12 students, hands-on. And I do a class of 2 hours. I say, I'm going to do the perfect meal for you today. A roast chicken, a boiled potato, and a salad. But it has to be done exactly the right way, basting the right way. The salad has to be cleaned up the right way, served at the right temperature, with the right dressing, with the right oil, with the right amount, right temperature. The potato has to be done this way, and so forth. Fine. So they do that, they taste it, then they go to the stove and do it. Now they have 2 hours to duplicate my dish, my 3 dish. And I always say, don't try to be original. Don't try to updo one another too. Don't try to be different than someone else, because you are different, and whether you like or not, for the better or for the worse, I am going to have 10 different chicken. A couple of them practically perfect, a couple cold, a couple undercooked, a couple overcooked, but whatever. They will be different because you are different and you cannot escape yourself, so you don't have to torture yourself to sign that dish to make sure that people know you've done it, because it will be different anyway. Changing a great deal, but certainly 30, 40 years ago, as Americans eating like 4 things, eating hot dog, frankfurter, hamburger, fried chicken, and maybe canned macaroni or one of those things. And you do have people, what you may call the mall crowd, who will eat those type of dish and repeat over and over and over and over again. So in that context, that type of culinary spectrum, if you want, is very limited compared to what you have in Europe for a European. Conversely, however, if you're in a place like New York and one night you eat Turkish and another night you eat Thailandese and another night you eat Chinese and French and Italian and so forth, your spectrum of taste is going to be much larger than most European, because even though there are Chinese restaurant and other kind of different type of cuisine restaurant in France, ethnic restaurant, yet 99.9% of French people eat French. 99.9% of Italian eat Italian, and so it goes in Germany and so forth, and in Belgium, because that's part of the tradition, that's part of a almost something that you're born with, something which is visceral, something which, and part of sitting down at the table with the family, and for all of those years, so it built up that type of culinary culture as I have.